Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Wednesday's edition of the dceu Daily as we get closer to the global release of Matt Reeves' The Batman. Matt and his cast are talking more and more about the thought processes about this movie. Now, to me, this is very, very interesting because I've never seen a cast or a director talk so much about their thought process of making a movie. They're giving us so much. It's amazing. I understand this is the marketing push, but they're talking about the creative process so much, and it's amazing. And yesterday, I found that Matt Reeves was talking about the sequel and Mr. Freeze. Now, Mr. Freeze has a lot of potential. A lot of people kind of triggered that Reeves was talking about Mr. Freeze because they see Freeze as campy. Mr. Freeze is not campy. Dr. Victor Freeze becomes Victor Freeze because, or he's nicknamed Mr. Freeze because his wife is dying of a condition, so he freezes her to keep her alive until he can find a cure. Now, doing this the Matt Reeves way would be very grounded and very interesting as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't have to be, that kind of story. But one thing you have to understand about Mr. Matthew Reeves is he's not going to give you Batman movies or superhero movies with a hero going after one villain and that's it. He said it himself yesterday. And if you're expecting that from the Batman, you are very wrong. It's not about Batman simply, capturing the Riddler. There's a lot more to that film. So any Mr. Freeze film would be doing a similar thing. Maybe Mr. Freeze wouldn't even be a central character, because I think he wants to involve all the rogues gallery of villains, as he has done in The Batman. Anyway, this is a Screen Rant article from Dan Zinitsky of Screen Rant. Director Matt Reeves says The Batman 2 could include a grounded version of notoriously over-the-top comic book and movie bad guy Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze isn't an over-the-top character. You don't get the character. You're thinking of Arnold Schwarzenegger's turn as Mr. Freeze. It would never be done like that again. Look, I don't mind Victor Freeze played by Schwarzenegger. It's okay. And when they focus on Victor Freeze's, I suppose, tragedy of losing Nora or having to freeze her, that's a very interesting thing. And I think Schwarzenegger tries his best to perform that to the best of his very little ability. But, he's not an over-the-top villain. So anyway, Matt Reeves says the Batman 2 could include a grounded version of Mr. Freeze. Batman is coming to movie theatres in a dark and gritty iteration, featuring Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne's, inspired in part by Nirvana's Kurt Cobain. Yeah, listen, we must talk about this Kurt Cobain thing. He's not literally playing Kurt Cobain. It's a kind of thing where you're looking at someone who's an addict. Cobain was obviously addicted to his music and drugs, obviously, but, this Bruce Wayne is addicted to his mission. He's addicted to being Batman. He's trying to escape from being Bruce Wayne, but of course, no one can ever escape being themselves. The moody and realistic theme suggested by a Cobain-infused Cape Crusader indeed carries over to every character in Reeves' The Batman, including Paul Dano's Zodiac-informed Riddler and Colin Farrell's more realistic take on the Penguin. Of course, other Batman movies have gone the grounded route before, most memorably Christopher Nolan's blockbuster, The Dark Knight. It's not just The Dark Knight. I don't know why people are obsessed with The Dark Knight. It was Batman Begins was grounded, still my favourite Nolan, maybe even my favourite Nolan movie, but certainly my favourite Nolan Bats movie. The Dark Knight was a great movie. The Dark Knight Rises is a very underrated movie, by the way. But some Batman films have instead gone the exact opposite route, embracing everything fantastical and campy about the DC Comics crime fighter and his villainous opponents. Perhaps the most infamous campy of all Batman movie efforts was Batman and Robin, a film renowned and maligned for director Joel Schumacher's over-the-top touches, like giving Batman's suit nipples. And do you know what? Until the internet was created, until Twitter was created, I didn't even know the geezer was wearing nipples. That's how much notice of detail I take. And introducing wild versions of characters like Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze. Look, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are very campy films, but they're very entertaining films. There's no rules on how to make a Batman movie. If I was to pick one, it definitely would be Matt Reeves' The Batman, but I don't hate those movies. I think it's the same as what Rob Pattinson was saying himself, wasn't it? Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze indeed continues to reign in Batman movie lore as one of the series' most bizarre and ultimately ridiculously cartoonish villains, at least on the surface. It would seem that the Mr. Freeze character would not fit at all in the more realistic Batman world envisioned by Reeves in The Batman. But Reeves himself might disagree with the perception. Via Collider, the director recently opened the door on Mr. Freeze actually showing up in a sequel to his Batman movie. In my view, I just feel, this is Matt Reeves, in my view I just feel drawn to finding the grounded version of everything. So to me it would be a challenging and interesting way to try and figure out how that could happen. Even the idea of something like Mr. Freeze, that's such a great story, right? Question mark. I think there's actually a grounded version of that story. I agree, we've just been discussing it, which could be really powerful and could be really great. And also what Reeves has been discussing, not necessarily in terms of Mr. Freeze, but taking grounded things, right? And taking a grounded movie and bringing someone like Freeze in and mixing the fantastical with the grounded. And this is what a genius Reeves is, isn't it? Yeah, and I like Reeves. He seems to be an open-hearted guy. He reminds me of former Doctor Who showrunner, actually present-day Doctor Who showrunner, because he's returning, Russell T Davies. He writes with the lights on instead of the lights off. So although he's writing a kind of darker take, right, it's still going to have some romance and, you know, make you smile at times. And this is what Russell T Davies is. He's a bit of everything. He doesn't diminish anything or, you know, say, I'm not doing that, that's wrong. And I like that. The Mr. Freeze presented by Schumacher and Schwarzenegger may have been a crazy-looking silver-painted quip machine, but the actual underlying character has a tragic backstory, and that could easily be reworked to be more grounded and realistic, exactly what I've been saying. In Batman lore, Dr. Victor is it Fries, actually? It's not Freeze, is it? But Fries. And obviously, he becomes Freeze. Is a cryogenic scientist engaged in research that he works with. Research that he hopes will cure his terminally ill wife. Unfortunately, Fries falls victim to a lab accident that freezes his body and forces him to wear a cryosuit in order to survive. Again, that could be very compellingly done by Matt Reeves. Fry's further motivation in Batman stories is still to help his wife, but he occasionally comes into conflict with Batman along the way. This backstory was of course preserved for Batman and Robin, but the look of the character as well as Schwarzenegger's campy performance sucked all the humanity out and left Mr. Freeze as a one-dimensional villain. But I think when Schwarzenegger did tap into that element of the story, it did bring tears to my eyes. I'm not saying it's compelling or well done or anything like that. The movie works for me because the movie did what it wanted to do. And people boring on about what a bad movie is doesn't interest me. It's like people saying Superman Returns or Superman 4 or Superman 3 are bad movies. Put them on in the afternoon, you'll have a lot of fun with them. Indeed, Reeves is not the first person to mention Mr. Freeze showing up in his Batman universe, as Zack Snyder previously raised the possibility in an interview and put forth Matthias Schwarzenegger, that's the guy from his Army of the Dead franchise, as the man to play the character. That would be amazing. Obviously, Mr. Freeze possesses a meaty character backstory that a writer-director like Reeves could do a lot with. And it seems it should be possible to redesign the character's look in a way that would fit with Reeves' realistic take on Batman. Surely, too, there is an actor capable of bringing enough nuance to Mr. Freeze to make the audience feel his inner conflict in a genuine way. Raising the emotional stakes on his battle with Batman, it remains to be seen, however, if Reeves will actually go through with it and bring Mr. Freeze into his Batman universe, if and when the Batman 2 gets the go-ahead. Yeah, it's going to get the go-ahead. It's already got the go-ahead. It's just not official yet. I can tell you that right here, right now. So moving on from that, I think it's interesting. Did an interviewer mention Mr. Freeze? If he did, there's no point really going on with this conversation, but we will, obviously, because we want to discuss it. But if Reeves himself come up with this means he has some kind of plan for Mr. Freeze. Listen, Batman has got he's got the best rogues villain gallery. I think the Flash actually has got a great rogues gallery as well. I really like the Flash's villain gallery and Batman's as well. And I think it's all there for you. So if you want to do a deep kind of grounded, realistic take, all these characters are there. The Joker, Mr. Freeze, Oswald Cobblepot, as you'll see in the movie. They're all there. It's up to you how you represent these characters. But I think what Matt did with the Batman, he showed us the inner turmoil of each member of the Rogues Gallery. And Mr. Freeze has this inner turmoil. Imagine doing a risky, dangerous experiment as a doctor or a professor, and that going wrong, and that meaning you have to be in a cryogenic suit for the rest of your life, and having to keep your temperature to certain degrees. What would that do to a human being psychologically? So with someone like Matt Reeves, you know, you could do something very, very exciting with that, and I hope that he does. Zoe Kravitz was excited to actually play Selena Kyle in The Batman. Zoe Kravitz revealed she was excited to actually play Selena Kyle in The Batman and explore her backstory rather than dive right into Catwoman. But by the way, this is basically Grant Herman's, who's done this article, opinion. You know, there's, you know, you want to do Selena. Of course you want to play the human part of the character. But there's something very exciting when she dives into Catwoman as well. And, you know, Zoe's already said she's enjoyed both, you know, identities of this character. So don't listen to this and get triggered about this. These journalists can be very naughty and, you know, going to kind of narratives that don't live in the real world. Anyway, Zoe Kravitz revealed she was excited to actually play Selena Kyle in the backstory and explore her backstory rather than dive right into Catwoman, because you wouldn't dive right into Catwoman anyway. Although that is a way you could do it, because she could just exist, and that would be exciting to see in the future. Kravitz becomes the 5th actress to bring Catwoman to life on the big screen, following Lee Merriweather, who was amazing in the Adam West-led Batman movie, Michelle Pfeiffer in 1992's Batman Returns, who was an amazing live-action Selena and Catwoman, by the way. Halle Berry, who I don't really want to talk about, in a solo film for the character, and Anne Hathaway in 2012's The Dark Knight Rises. Don't like either of those last two ones, so I don't really want to mention them. The High Fidelity alum also previously voiced Catwoman in the Lego Batman movie. The Batman serves as a reboot to the character's film franchise and shifts the focus to Bruce Wayne's second year of fighting crime as he investigates a tangled web of corruption in Gotham City with ties to his family and searches for the cryptic serial killer known as the Riddler. Alongside Kravitz, the cast for the new film includes Robert Pattinson in the titular role, Paul Dano as the Riddler, Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon, Andy Serkis as Alfred Pennyworth, and Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot. Hailing from co-writer-director Matt Reeves, The Batman is currently gearing up to hit theatres on March the 4th, and those behind the film are offering insight for the highly anticipated film. By the way, before we continue with this, I have been direct messaged and emailed by many critics who have now seen this film, telling me they absolutely adore this movie, and I'm sure you've seen some critics not talk about the movie specifically, but they're all saying they loved it, so that's very positive. That was never going to be a problem for the Batman in terms of DC live action. The Batman was always going to make money. The Batman was always going to get critical acclaim. The big kind of challenge this year is for Black Adam, the Flash movie, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. They're the movies desperate to make money. They're the movies that need critical acclaim as well. During a recent Q&A screen rant attended for the film, Zoe Kravitz opened up about her work in The Batman. The actress revealed she was excited to actually play Selena Kyle and develop the character before she becomes the iconic anti-heroine Catwoman. See what Kravitz said below. And I mean, you would want to flesh out your character first, wouldn't you? This doesn't mean she doesn't enjoy being Catwoman, which the headline kind of tried to hint at. I mean, the character is so well developed in the script. I was really excited to explore her backstory, where she comes from, and process that she goes through in terms of becoming closer to what will be Catwoman. But it was really lovely to be able to play Selena and not have to jump straight to Catwoman. I think with these iconic characters that we all love so much, it can be overwhelming in terms of, okay, now here's Catwoman, and I have this wonderful opportunity to slowly develop her, and the audience gets to come on that journey with me. But you know, obviously learning all the combat and the way she moves and finding ways to hint at who she will become, it was a really fun process. So yeah, this film may not be Batman Begins because this is Rob's Batman's second year, but this certainly is Catwoman Begins. And they, again, like all the characters, you see this inner turmoil, and Matt does this so well, and his actors, you know, including the young woman playing Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman, does a great job with that. Inner turmoil is very, very important in characterizations, and if you don't have it, and if you can't be bothered with it, I mean, a lot of modern day creatives just care about representation and inclusion and leave the nuance in the writing, you know, at the front door. And that's a problem. And that should be a problem to everyone. Kravitz's excitement of getting to actually play Selena Kyle in the Batman does speak to the lack of character development many past portrayals of Kyle have brought to the screen. Though Pfeiffer's performance in Batman Returns is celebrated for her chemistry with Michael Keaton and her ferocity. No, I'm going to correct this. Michelle Pfeiffer's performance as Catwoman and Selena was great, they're right. But they're trying to say it's just about the chemistry with Keaton. No. Tim Burton and his co-writer did a great job with that character. We see her as Selena. This woman is mentally impaired. There's something wrong with this woman, and we can see that. And, you know, we see her for at least 10, 15, 20 minutes before she becomes Catwoman. And then when she gets pushed out the window, the more psychotic she becomes. It's a fully fleshed out character trait. So this journalist is talking absolute bullshit. Selena gets little proper screen time before driving right into her Catwoman persona. No. I've just explained it, but I'm going to say it again. You are wrong. She gets plenty of screen time before she becomes Catwoman. End of story. But let's be fair, this is a much shorter movie than the Batman. So they didn't have as long to flesh her out, but they did flesh her out wonderfully. So that's bullshit. While Halle Berry's Catwoman is an entirely different person with Patience Phillips taking them a moniker, it too put little attention on the woman behind the mask in favour of showing off her anti-heroic side. Look, it's a shit movie. Let's move on. Anne Hathaway and Cameron Bicondova. Now, Cameron Bicondova from Gotham, who played Selena, I think she was an absolutely fantastic young actress. Ridiculous that they replaced her for the finale. I had a lot of time for Cam in that performance. Anne Hathaway I have no time for as Catwoman or Selena. Performances in The Dark Knight Rises and Gotham do stand out as rare examples of properly exploring Selena Kyle. Now, are you being dumb? Are you being purposely obtuse? You know, I'm sorry, but The Dark Knight Rises version of Selena is awful and very little fleshing out, if you ask me. The marketing for the Batman and discussion from Matt Reeves and the cast have pointed towards a better character development for all its characters rather than focusing on their masked alter egos. Yeah, but without that masked alter ego, no one's interested in the human side. Always remember that. Always remember why we're here. Anyway, so on their masked alter egos, establishing it as one of the more ambitious and expansive adaptations of the DC Comics hero. The wait for the Batman is nearly over as the film hits theatres on March the 4th. Listen, I'm very happy that the actress is excited about playing Selena as well as Catwoman. But at the end of the day, you know, Catwoman is iconic, and that's the reason we're attracted to Selena Kyle as a character. But I'm happy that they fleshed this character out, and they did. The backstory is amazing, it's great, but this is the problem with the generation of people who stan movies and talk about movies today. They have to urinate on someone else's baby, someone else's creation to uplift another. Matt Reeves, the Batman, doesn't need you to be toxic about another person's creation. You know, Selena Kyle, aka Michelle Pfeiffer, was well fleshed out, and she's a great Catwoman. End of the story. Let's move on. Robert Pattinson has one condition for his Batman getting a Robin. Robert Pattinson is game to see Robin appear in the Batman franchise, but the actor has one specific condition in order to let that happen. By Andy, whose surname I can't pronounce, of Screen Rant. Well, it's not really up to Rob, it's up to Matt Reeves. But look, I want to see Robin in the Batman universe, of course I do, but I'm really excited that we'll get to see him in the DCEU as well. Eventually Matt will get to him, no question about that. The Batman star Robert Pattinson is game to see Robin join his franchise down the line, but with one special condition. The Dark Knight is about to get his latest cinematic portrayal, with Pattinson starring in Matt Reeves' upcoming reboot. It's not a reboot because it's not rebooting anything. It's not saying that it's not binning something and starting from scratch. Different universe, different take. Batfleck will always be a thing in the DCEU, whether they delete him or not, he'll always be a thing. So one has nothing to do with the other, so it's not a reboot. Taking place outside the DCEU, the Batman centres on Bruce Wayne's second year as Gotham City's protector. While Pattinson's Batman won't be completely new as a vigilante, his version of the Caped Crusader still has a long way to go before becoming the heroes fans know and love. With a new Batman franchise comes several new iterations of various characters from the mythology. While the Batman has a number of villains lined up against the DC detective, Paul Dano's Riddler will serve as the main antagonist in the story. You see, you haven't seen the movie. You don't get it. This is not a traditional main antagonist. I'm talking about Paul Dano's the Riddler. I can't go into any details. You're not ready to see the style that Matt's doing here. So when people were complaining that Matt was adding all these different members of the Rogues Gallery, oh no, it's Batman Returns, which wasn't overcrowded either, by the way. Ridiculous accusation. But, you know, Matt's going at this as a Godfather type movie, if you like. So these characters are characters, and they get their own characterizations and inner turmoil, which is great. So it's a very different type of movie. Famous Batman baddies like the Penguin and Carmine Falcone will also appear in various capacities, while Gotham City's anti-heroine Catwoman is part of the story too. The Batman is beginning of an envisioned trilogy. Again, they got that wrong. It's more than a trilogy, which is looking likely to happen from all the positive reception so far throughout the marketing and the box office projections for the opening weekend. The Batman 2 is likely to get greenlit at some point this year. Chances for potential sequels are also looking very good, since Warner Brothers is already investing in a number of the Batman TV spin-offs from Reeves, including GCPD and the Penguin on HBO Max. Listen, let me just explain to you before we carry on with the article. We are looking at the Matt Reeves DC Earth 2 Extended Universe. That's what it is. Brand new Earth, brand new iteration. It's his baby, and it's very exciting. And it goes beyond Batman. We'll talk about it after this article. Since the Batman is a fresh start for Warner Brothers in portraying the hero's mythology once again, it could also open the door for the extended Bat family to show up. I believe that it will. Especially Robin. Screen Rant recently took part in a panel for the film, with Pattinson present, where he was asked about what the chances are for the boy wonder to join the franchise. It turns out Pattinson is more than open for Robin to enter the franchise, specifically mentioning the famous DC storyline Batman: A Death in the Family as one of his favourites. However, the actor listed one specific condition for his Batman to add a Robin to his crusade, sharing the following. Yeah, but he has to be 13. That's the only way I'll accept it. No, I love Death in the Family and stuff, but I think it'll be so cool. Also, people are so scared of it, but it's kind of exciting. I think it would be a really fun addition. Listen, I love Robin, I love Dick Grayson, I even love Jason Todd. Some people like him, some people don't. He was killed off in Death of the Family for a reason. Look, I think to do the Death in the Family, we'll continue this article quite shortly, but I think to adapt Death in the Family, first you have to flesh out the Bat family, get them together, you know, give them the inner turmoil, you know, Matt's other characters in the Batman have got, set them up, make them characters, have Dick and Jason then, and then do it, set them up. Don't do what Snyder did, which was twisting the narrative, changing from Dick to Jason getting killed off, and doing it off screen. I'm sorry, Zach. I like a lot of things that you did with the DC Extended Universe, but that, I can't get past. I don't get it. If you want to kill Dick Grayson off, fine, but let us see it. Anyway, so that's my opinion on how you have to do it. So you can't rush doing that. For over 3 years, Titans has been the semi-home for the Bat family, with characters like Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Barbara Gordon and Tim Drake as main players. Warner Brothers TV is also developing a Gotham Knights series on the CW that would focus on Batman's adopted son. The studio is obviously aware of the Bat family's potential. Titans has proven that there is definitely an interest in seeing Batman's famous allies on screen when approaching them seriously. Joel Schumacher's Batman films likely discouraged Warner Brothers from having any Robin in the latest due to that specific negative reception. But why? Why would that put you off? You put it down to something that maybe didn't work out. I still think Chris O'Donnell was a great Dick Grayson and Robin, so I don't know what they're talking about. But, you know, I think these are dumb reasons. But we've got new leadership now. Even newer leadership is coming in with Warner Brothers Discovery. They're going to untap so much untapped potential, and it's really awesome. However, given how serious Reeves is approaching the Batman already, someone like Robin would be in more than capable hands. Even though Pattinson's Batman is relatively young, likely in his mid-20s, he would still be a 10-year age difference at the very least. If not in the Batman 2, the third installment could be a good place to integrate someone like Dick into the franchise. Do you know what? You could actually do a kind of family drama about the Graysons. What happened? They were going to do a Graysons drama, weren't they? You know, focus on Dick there and slowly flesh it out, then bring him to the movies. It'd be very interesting. You could have it on HBO Max, then introduce him to maybe, as he says, the Batman 3, the Batman 2. I think that would be really awesome. But maybe I'm a bit ambitious, you know, excuse me, pardon me. The Bat family has become such an essential aspect of the DC universe that it would be a shame if the Batman didn't take this opportunity to try to explore it properly on the big screen. It's exactly what Matt's planning. If they ever got to the point where Jason is introduced, seeing a more fleshed out take on Batman, a death in the family would be welcome, especially as Titans Season 3 did a watered down version of it, agreed? Hopefully as the Batman franchise goes forward, Robin will show up in at least one of the future sequels. So, first of all, you're not looking at trilogy here. This is your Kevin Feige. Matt Reeves is your Kevin Feige, right? He's plotting an entire DC Earth 2 universe. He's moulding it. There are plans for Superman. Yes, he has his own plans for Superman. Isn't that exciting, right? Matt Reeves' Superman. Imagine that. He's talked about it, he's discussed it, he's developing those ideas with other creatives. So he's going to introduce the Bat family, he's moulding his own DC universe, and I couldn't be more excited. Coming up, talking about the DC multiverse and how it's so expansive and expanding all the time, we have an even closer look at Michael Keaton's Batman, and I must say, he looks absolutely fantastic. We will look at the images in detail and read an article from Screen Rant, because this is so exciting. This is why I left it to last. Just take a look at this. Oh my fucking God, just look at this beauty. This is supposed to be, oh, he's 70. Look at him. That's Michael fucking Keaton as Batman. The costume is slightly different to the 89 and 92, but I really do like it. This is a 70-year-old man, so they weren't going to squeeze him up in that tight one, right? But look, the man looks beautiful. I love him. And if I was gay, I would marry Michael Keaton, and he would be wearing that at our wedding day. He looks absolutely amazing. There is another image, so we will look at it. We'll close up to it because it's so cool. Look at this fucking beauty, mate. Look at that. Now, these are not official images, but I think the studio have allowed them to be taken purposely. So I don't want to hear any hot takes about, oh, Warner Brothers, let everything leak. Shut up, shut up. Be glad you can see these images. This is the year of the fucking Batman, Batfleck, Pattinson. You know, Pattinson as Batman, right? I mean, amazing. And now Michael Keaton's Batman will return in The Flash and the Batgirl movie, which I expect to be released in movie theatres in 2023 and not on HBO Max because this guy should be on fucking cinema screens. What an amazing year to be a fucking Bat stan and a DC fan. What are you all complaining about? It's amazing. It's awesome. He looks beautiful. Pattinson looks amazing. And Batfleck in the pictures, the chase scenes we've seen leak, look amazing. If you're a Batman fan, embrace them all. Don't say one's better than the other and the other one sucks. No! If you're a Batman fan, you should be happy. And if you're not happy, and if you're not stoked, I don't understand what's wrong with you. Because if this was fucking Superman, if Ralph came back, you know, and we were having Cavill back, and we were having another Superman back, maybe Hecklin or whoever, right? Or Tom Welling, right? Or Rosenbaum's Lex, I'd be going, fuck me! This is amazing. I wouldn't be going, oh, this one's better than that one, and oh no, it sucks. No, I would be fucking ejaculating in my fucking boxer shorts. Sorry to be cruel. This is a great moment to be a DC and a Bat stan. Now, if we read this Screen Rant article from Mr. Cooper Hood, a journalist I follow on Twitter, very nice man, by the way, it's very interesting because he talks about a flashback of Keaton's Batman working with J.K. Simmons, Commissioner Gordon. But how is that possible? Flashpoint, of course. Let's get into it. Keaton's Batman suit close up and DCEU Jim Gordon revealed in Batgirl set photos. New set photos from the DCEU's upcoming Batgirl movie reveal Michael Keaton's Batman working with J.K. Simmons, Jim Gordon in a possible flashback. By Cooper Hood of Screen Rant. New set photos from Batgirl show Michael Keaton's Batman with Jim Gordon, J.K. Simmons. Warner Brothers began developing plans for a Barbara Gordon solo movie in 2017, but it went through some big changes before making progress in recent years. Leslie Grace was cast to play Batgirl, while the movie's script was written by Birds of Prey's Christina Hodson and is being directed by Bad Boys for Life duo Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah. One of the biggest changes that Batgirl includes is a reflection of the DC Extended Universe's state, as Michael Keaton is playing Batman again instead of Ben Affleck. Be very careful of the instead thing. We do not know if in addition to Michael Keaton's Batman that Batfleck isn't involved as well. Now, I've looked into this. I can't really talk about this, but be very careful before you say there's no Batfleck in this movie. You are not ready. That's what I'm going to say. Anyway, although Ben Affleck became the DCEU's Batman for Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, the actor is seemingly on his way out after upcoming appearance in The Flash. The latter movie also where Keaton is making his highly anticipated return as the Dark Knight, a role he hasn't played since 1992's Batman Returns. While audiences still have to wait to see exactly how he factors into The Flash, the confirmation that he's back for Batgirl indicates he's the DCEU new Batman. Now, I've got no issue with that, but be careful. That may not be the truth. Keaton is very much involved in the future of the DCEU, but I think Batfleck is too. And I think Ezra Miller mocking his exit after The Flash tells you everything you need to know. Indicates he's the DCU's new Batman. This gives Keaton's Batman the opportunity to interact with plenty of new characters. Production is currently underway on Batgirl, and Michael Keaton recently began filming his scenes as Batman. New set photos taken by Alan Fettis reveal a new crossover pairing. Keaton's Batman is shown alongside J.K. Simmons' Jim Gordon. It is unclear if Keaton is the one in the Batman suit here. As Simmons' hair indicates, this might be a flashback. Check out the photos below. And so we've already checked out the photos. These new Batgirl set photos also provide the best look yet at Michael Keaton's Batman suit. One of the big differences between his Batgirl costume and how Keaton's suit looked before comes with the bottom of the cowl. The original cowl had a bat wing-like design at the bottom which fit perfectly around the Batman logo in the chest. These set photos show the cowl cape now ends in a straight line prior to the logo. It is possible this is just for functionality reasons though, and the original Batman suit design will be restored through CGI. Good point, but I don't care either way, it looks amazing. An interaction between Michael Keaton's Batman and J.K. Simmons' Jim Gordon is not something fans would have expected to see a few years ago. It also a sign of the unknown new DC canon. Keaton's Batman had his own version of Commissioner Gordon, played by Pat Hingle, in his previous movie. Meanwhile, Simmons' Gordon was last seen interacting with Ben Affleck's Batman in Justice League. These Batgirl set photos show that Keaton's Batman and Simmons' Gordon are now intertwined in the DCEU, and the upcoming movie could even show some of their early adventures if this is a flashback. So yeah, very good point by Cooper Hood. So what's going on here, right? How is this going to be a reality? How are the characters going to react to Keaton's Batman suddenly being a part of the DCEU? We could have a situation after Flashpoint where all the Earths mold together, which will create a messy situation, and so there's characters from everywhere. That could be a thing that they're doing, because they're talking about uniting it all and making it as one. Because so that could be a way that Walter Hamada, Jim Lee and Ann Sarnoff were looking at doing it. But it could be that all of a sudden people wake up and versions of Batman and Superman disappear, and new versions of Batman and Superman and all these other DC characters have arrived. But instead of just saying it's changed now and that's that, it's part of the narrative, it's part of the story. Where have our versions of these characters gone, and where the fuck did you come from? Which will make these characters curious and want to know what the fuck's going on. I think this is the way they're going with it, and I think it's genius, and I can't wait how it all unravels. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. Hope you love the shirt, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. Until then, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.